right, Summertime Blues, Eddie Cochran. A great rock and roll spirit, Eddie Cochran was. Unfortunately, taken from us way too soon. He was way too young when he died. And all the British bands like The Who, they all knew about Eddie Cochran, and the Beatles, the Stones, probably more than we did, appreciated him more than we did here in the States. I think he was famous, but not superstar like he should have been. A great guitarist. He was a great. He could really play good blues, and very sophisticated on guitar. He knew guitar better than a lot of rockers, especially songwriter singers of that era. And Summertime Blues, other great versions. You want to hear The Who live at Leeds. That's a really good version of Summertime Blues, and they arranged it their own way. And then probably the band that had the biggest radio hit with it, of course, was the psychedelic band from late 60s, Blue Cheer. Real psychedelic kind of version of Summertime Blues, but that's the one I remember hearing on the radio the first time. I didn't know who Eddie Cochran was. And I was, I think it was around the time I lived in Austin, Texas. I was 13, and I remember hearing Hallelujah, I Love Her So on the radio, because in Austin at that time, radio stations were kind of hip, they would play some really good stuff that I wouldn't hear in Kentucky, where I was from. But I mean, they would play things every now and then. They'd play a great B.B. King song, and I remember one night hearing Hallelujah. It's a song that Ray Charles did, Hallelujah, I Love Her So. And it was Eddie Cochran. I remember the guy that announced Eddie Cochran. And look him up on YouTube if you're not familiar with him. But Summertime Blues was absolutely his biggest hit, and he was most well known for. Now, when this is an arrangement, in the original, I'm not sure if he's like detuning the guitar, might be an overdub guitar, or using a whammy bar more likely. But it's kind of like you hear the low E going down and coming up. I arranged a little different version of that where I'm doing a D sharp to an E, and I'm muting the strings, playing a root fifth chord with 3 notes on the E, like doing an E chord, but we're putting our first finger on the 4th string and alternating frets, like frets 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, like that, 1, 2, 2, 2. And another tip is you want your first finger to touch the 3rd string to deaden it, because you don't want to hear like a B minor chord or anything like that. Just a root 5th chord, you're just hitting the 3 bass strings and muting with your palm at the bridge, usually about where the strings come over the bridge. You want to kind of pivot your palm, put it the meat of your palm right on the bass strings, and you're not going to mute all of them equally, but that's good enough. You want a little ring to it. If it's totally dead, you're muting too much. That means your hand is too far away from the bridge. You need to be at the bridge to mute, and we're using a pick, flat pick. And make sure your pick follows through so that you hear that 4th string change. 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2. And if you noticed when I first played it for this video, sometimes I'm starting kind of soft and building up, like. Okay? So you can use dynamics. It can be very dynamic. There's a lot you can do with this song. I'm not trying to be vintagely correct to do it exactly like Eddie Cochran, but it's pretty close, my version. And now when you do the strums, first of all, the E chord is a normal garden variety E chord with 3 fingers. And then when you go to the A chord, instead of doing an A like this, do it with 2nd, 3rd, and 4th fingers, because your 2nd and 3rd fingers can just go across the street, and then you add your pinky, and these are really quick chord changes. It's like counting the rhythm like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3. So it's coming in on an offbeat, and you're changing on a dime from 8th note to a quarter note. So you have to change very quick. It's more of a change if you did the traditional A chord like that, and I don't really recommend barring the A or anything like that. But do 2nd, 3rd, and 4th fingers, and then you're kind of in line with doing the B7. Now the B7, the main thing, and I tell this to students all the time, and some people have a hard time doing this, but your 2nd finger, like a little bit of the flesh of the side of your 2nd finger should touch the 6th string to kind of mute it, so you can strum freely and not worry about hitting that open E, which clashes with the B7 chord. And then you do have to adjust your 2nd finger to play the E chord, because you do want to hear the low E with that chord, but you're muting the low E with the B7. And make sure that you start these strums. They're really big strums. I think on the recording there's acoustic guitar as well as electric guitar, if I'm not mistaken. But he had another song, Come On Everybody, that had acoustic guitar, and it was doing almost the same chord changes as Summertime Blues, that, like that. So don't forget to start each set of chords with an upstroke. Our first impulse is always to do a downstroke, but we're coming in on an off beat. So it's like you're counting 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3. Rest, 1 and 2 and 3. So it needs to be up, down, up, down. It's stronger that way. Up, down, down. Okay, now, so the first part is an intro, and it's like you do this riff for 2 measures, and then the chords again, and then the riff, build it up. This is the singing verse. And then you want to go to an A chord. Now this A chord is going to be barred, and you only have to bar a couple of strings. You don't really need the 2nd string. It's okay if it rings, but to get into that, you're going E, and then single note E to 3rd fret G, and pull that a little bit. It's sacrilegious not to pull it, okay? So, and make sure you're doing 2nd finger. Your first impulse is going to be to do 3rd finger, but then you're not set up for the A chord. It's like you're shifting up 1 fret. Realize that. You're not staying at the 1st fret. You're going. So it's 2nd finger to first finger barred. Now here we're doing a rhythm pattern, 2 2 4 2 2 2 4 open. So you're hitting some open strings at the end of the measure, but it's 2 2 4 2 2 2 4 0 2 4 2 2 2 4 0. Stop. 2 3 4. 1 2 3 4, and then 2 4 0 2 4 2 4 0 2 3 4 1. So it's a long stop, and then up down, 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 B7. This is the ending, and then do a half E7. That's what I call it. You're not fingering a full E chord. You're doing just first and second fingers, but the second finger, kind of like we talked about muting the sixth string with the B7 chord, here the second finger is touching the fifth string. It's like Jimi Hendrix used this kind of muddy waters. A lot of the blues guys, the hip guys, they would do a two-finger E chord because they would do licks like that and end up with the second finger like on that. And you wouldn't do a lick and then switch to the third finger to play the E. You just mute the fifth string. You don't miss it that much. And now this is an E7, so you put your pinky on the third fret of the second string, and you're muting the fifth string, so it's just three fingers instead of the full E with the pinky. You could do it that way, but it's like, and you're muting the fifth string. Just remember that. It won't sound good if the fifth string rings open, right? Kind of sour, you know. So that's Summertime Blues, and it's kind of an arrangement that's, I wouldn't call it easy, but it's just a little different than the original because it doesn't have that low E with the whammy bar. But great song, great song. So have fun with this one, and it'll really tighten up your chord changes. Just really make sure you understand the rhythm, that you're doing offbeat strums and, you know, like 1 and 2, 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2 and, you know, make sure you understand that rhythm. And then a lot of people have trouble, I've taught this many times, and getting this just right. You have to make sure you're really hitting three strings, and you might even almost like do a rest stroke where you're going through and resting against or playing against the third string to bring that out, you know. Everything doesn't have to be perfect, you know. It's, you know, I don't really worry about it, but you do have to hear that change. If your pick doesn't make it to the fourth string, you're not going to hear it. You're going to just hear this. And you don't forget to mute. You know, it doesn't sound terrible if you don't mute, but it's too much ringing. You want to hear it. Okay? So I've talked enough. That's Summertime Blues. Subscribe, John Hedger Guitar Studio on YouTube, and like my Facebook. All right. Have a good day.